Hi, I'm Brian Crombie, and we're going to be talking on the Brian Crombie Show. We're going to be talking about politics, arts, business, and social issues on the Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV. Welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960 AM. I have the privilege of bringing you interviews with interesting people every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on Saga 960 AM or streamed online at saga960am.ca. Tonight, I've got an interesting gentleman for you. Mohamad Fakih is the president, CEO, owner of Paramount Fine Foods, a fantastic Middle Eastern restaurant. And he's been posting a little bit recently about the impact of COVID-19 on the restaurant industry and some appeals to government, and also, I think, to people, but to government in regards to assistance that they should be providing to the restaurants. So, Mohamad, how are you? Welcome to my show.
Thank you very much, and good to have me here again and seeing you again. And I see a lot of what you're doing, and we're very proud of what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've had fun. You know, it's interesting with this physical distancing and isolating in my home office here. I have not been socially distancing because I've been chatting with a whole bunch of different people, and it's been fun to be socially connected to people, though I haven't seen you in a long time. But tell me, how has COVID-19 impacted Paramount? It must be extreme.
Well, like everyone else in the industry, especially the restaurants, sit-down restaurants, more than the takeout, and bars, hotels. We started a great year, great expectations, and over one night, we realized that we're going to lose 90% of our sales. 90%. And then in the beginning, the first impact was 90% of your sales. So from $4 million a month sales, you're getting basically $500,000 a month. And that's, to you, that's a shock. That's even below having one restaurant. When I started Paramount, the Crestline location used to do $500,000 a month. And now the entire company is doing $500,000 a month because a lot of the restaurants were closed, and they remain, some of them are closed. So it was a big shock. And to someone like me coming from a civil war and operated business in a war for a year at least, it was worse than the wartime. And so I said, we'll ride it out for a couple of days. We'll see what everyone else is doing. But it seemed to be getting longer. People didn't know what was going on. Changed from a strategic plan 5 years, 1 year to 1 day, and sometime in the middle of the day we had to make some decisions, and that's fine. It wasn't only about decisions; were decisions. And as you know, I run my company based on people. So, like, for me, the biggest asset of Paramount is people, and always believed in that, that people come first and profit will follow. And if your people are happy, your community, if you look after your people, you look after your community, like the 4 Ps, right? People, people, planet, and purpose brings a profit. And I always believed in it. And all of a sudden you're hearing that company laid off, and that company let go, and that company filed. And I went to really dark moments in the end of March when everyone else was saying, well, you have to let go some of our people. And I said, no, I can't do that. And I was hurt personally because I thought, am I one of those guys that do lip service more than actually doing real work? And did I really believe in my noble mission of Paramount being people first? Because when you call your team a family, if you don't have money, it's not like you tell one of your children or share whatever you have with your family member. You don't lay off your children if you don't have the money or the same income.
Yeah. We're chatting with
Mohamad. I was testing. I was
We're chatting with Mohamad Fakih, the president and CEO of Paramount Fine Foods. We're going to take a break for some messages and be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with the president and CEO and owner of Paramount Fine Foods, Mohamad Fakih. Mohamad, we were just chatting about how important people are to you and your philosophy of business with Paramount, and I know that. So does that mean that you didn't lay people off, or you were reticent to lay people off? I've got to believe that you had to lay people off in the restaurant business. You lost 90%, if not more, of your volume.
Well, definitely in the first months we didn't. We actually put out a policy that anyone that is ill or looking after an ill person will be paid as if they were at work. And we try to maintain and rotate people from the people that had vacations and vacation weeks and rotate them on a week on, week off for the first month and 3/4 of the second month. And then when restaurants remain closed, so what we did is we did a temporary layoff with a top up. So we did a top up from our company, and that was almost 3 months in before we had to remove some of the top ups. But as well, at the time, some people were requesting not to be returning to work because, right. Yeah. And then when people request not to return to work and we ask them to come to work, that's different. So we had to let go, but in the top of the company or the bottom of the company, the number was very small because we were rotating all the time and we were trying our best. But psychologically, it was very difficult. I insisted that I will actually address the team, not let the director do that, not let the vice president do that, because the worst thing you could do to your executive team is bringing bad news to the people that worked beside them and supported your company, and especially when people has not done anything wrong, and these are your assets. So that was part of it, and we realized that this is going to be long without government. As you all saw the survey, that from today's date and 6 months forward, only 13% of restaurants will become profitable. And that's only in case of not having a second wave. So only 13% of the restaurant industry, that was a survey from Restaurant Canada, 13% of the restaurant industry will become profitable not before 6 months from today. What does that mean? That means we all losing money day in, day out. Everyone is losing money. And we need 6 months to ramp up the business with your support to local restaurants, with everyone listening here and not listening, supporting the local restaurant. Despite that, mean the restaurant will be taking away money from the owners of the restaurant. So not alone the restaurant isn't making money, the people working every day, going to work every day to serve, to own, like owning those restaurants and working hands-on, like a lot of the restaurant owners of Paramount, franchisee, and a lot of other brands, not only Paramount, they're taking home nothing. So an owner of a restaurant will pay money from their pocket to keep the restaurant open and will pay money from their pocket to keep food on their table at the same time. So that's the situation, as the survey clearly said. And definitely we start advocating, the Chamber of Commerce start advocating, Restaurant Canada was advocating to get the subsidies. The subsidies were great. The reason why a lot of people are still in business is the subsidy. They came slow and they came from 30 feet high. So the restaurant industry or businesses, small businesses, are not one size fits all subsidy or solution usually. And in the beginning, I understand that it needed to be fast and the fastest possible. That's why it was one size fits all. But now we're requesting and we're advocating always the restaurant industry to be treated differently. Not one size fits all. Some other businesses, small businesses, that is not anymore affected as much as the hospitality. So why give them money that other industry need? And again, within the restaurant industry, some people take out pizza places and more takeout restaurants are doing better than sit-down restaurants and bars. As you see, patios are open, but unfortunately as well, when a rainy day happens, your income, your revenue will go back to just takeout. And that's what we advocated for, that will be customized, not one size fits all approach.
So I understand that you along with numerous other people within the restaurant industry, have penned a letter that was sent to governments looking for support. And just a couple of things, if we could talk it through. I was really surprised when reading the letter that 1 in every 15 jobs is from the hospitality industry. That's an astronomical number. I was shocked that it was so big. 1.2 million Canadians work in the hospitality industry, according to your letter.
Well, and thank you very much for actually bringing this one up. This is very important. Sometimes we see comments from people's social media, or that's what runs through people's head, that, yeah, you guys are entrepreneur, business people, take risks, and that's it. It's not it. It's not it. Without restaurants, like, our country, our city, our life will change. That's where we meet people. That's where we break bread together. Me and you, Brian, spoke about how much breaking bread together and sharing a meal is important to our social fabric, and how can we resolve maybe the world problem by breaking bread together and getting to know each other better over a meal. And if those restaurants leave, go, and don't stay, a lot of things will change. A lot of our children started their first work experience, leadership and responsibilities, and being held accountable at the restaurant. So yes, 1 out of 15 job, like, it's a huge number of employment and puts a lot of food on people's table. So it's not about us, restaurateur or entrepreneur, advocating for ourselves. We're advocating for an industry that employs a lot of people in Canada, teaches leadership, and it's the first job of a lot of our children. And it has a lot of implication having that industry decimating and 15% only remaining out of that industry, including supply chain, our farmers, our tax payment to the government. So it's not one thing only. This industry is attached and has a lot of this industry brings a lot of positive economic impact, and having a lot of dreams shattered, and a lot of business people, even people who wants to become business people, are scared seeing successful people, great brands shutting down and filing for bankruptcy and letting go their staff. That, it's just not a good image that we let go that industry.
Well, your letter says that 800,000 people have lost their jobs or been laid off.
Yes, and if we continue not telling entrepreneurs and restaurateurs how long we have before the rent subsidy will be removed, and those subsidies that it's going month to month, like the rent subsidy, because like federal government has been fast at providing some of the subsidies, slow in general, but faster than when a subsidy brings in the two level of government together. So by the time the feds and the provincial government agree on the rent subsidy, by the time both governments agree on the rent subsidy, we're having month-to-month subsidy. And what does that mean to businesses? That means if I was to bring more people back from my team that or they decided not to work, or I said to them, why don't you rotate? I can't do that, because I don't know if next month I'm going to pay $50,000 rent for my Young and Dundas location that it's only selling $10,000 a week when it used to be selling $80,000 a week.
Okay, I agree with you that the impact is large, but let me just challenge you for a second in regards to whether
Sure.
it's specific to the hospitality industry. So let me give you a couple of stats just for conversation sake. Victoria's Secret declared bankruptcy. Zara closed 1,200 stores. La Chapelle withdrew 4,391 stores. Chanel is discontinued. Hermes is discontinued. Hertz, the largest car company in the world, filed for bankruptcy. Biggest trucking company in the world declared bankruptcy. Oldest retail company, JCPenney, filed for bankruptcy. Like, this has impacted retail as much as hospitality, hasn't it?
Not really, because I'll tell you why. I understand what you're saying, but the malls, out of basically 300 stores, there's only 10 closed, right? By percentage, those companies, possibly there's other financial issues. 3 months to close Victoria's Secret, me and you know, and you probably know even better than me, you're an economist, and much more. 3 months does not shut down Victoria's Secret unless the expansion or the bank has tightened up much more for them to be able not to sustain a 3 and 4 month. So the difference between these two is bigger company, right? The impact is not divided, is all on under one roof. And a lot of other retail company has stayed in business too. But the restaurant industry in general, if you remove, and God forbid that we do that test, if we remove the subsidy of labor and rent, 85% of the restaurants will shut down automatically because people will prefer to hold the cash back because all what they know is now is a working back schedule when they're going to bankrupt. Without, before we get to 89% back to our 2019 sales, we will not break even at the restaurant industry.
Right.
Restaurant Canada has reported our profit around Canada, across Canada, is 5 to 9% as an industry, even less than 9, right? So before you get literally to 93% back to your sale, the owner of the business isn't taking a penny to his account and to his
Well,
house.
there's a lot of people in the restaurant business that believe that the only people that make money in the restaurant business are the landlords. And so therefore, maybe with a little bit of shakeout, that'll be beneficial and only the good restaurants will be left.
Well, I mean,
Hello?
yeah, I'm here. What I truly believe the two sentences could be true, but they're not attached, because if the only people are making money in business are the landlord, right? The shakeup should not happen that way. So if the only people happy making money are the landlord, the restaurant industry should be allowed to raise price, or the landlord should be lowering their rent per square footage. Otherwise, the formula will not work. And if we all assume that our country should not exist with no restaurants at all, right? And if the sentence, and I believe it's true, the only people making the money are the landlord, that formula should be fixed separately. Now, a good shakeup is good. It could be every while a shakeup in every industry is good. But in general, having an industry making 6 to 7, 8%, when you talk to the American company, they say, if you're breaking even in Canada, you make millions in the US. That formula is wrong. It should not exist. And Canada should have some profitability left.
Why
for
is
the
that?
restaurant.
Why would a company that makes a lot of money in the United States only make 6 to 9% of sales in Canada? What is
I
it in
think
Canada? Do we go out
I
less often? Or are we over restauranted? Is our real estate too expensive, or all of the above?
I think it's all of the above. It's a little bit of everything. And as well, bigger company, I think, are more.
Weekly unemployment benefits go from $600 to $200.
Is that you or me?
No, it's you.
Okay. I don't know what happened. I think in the United States, they have many more million people coming to a lot of their cities where these restaurant matching brand are existing. And the rent, it may be higher, but by the percentage of sales, the food cost there, I think our imported chicken and our quota in chicken and our between the province red tape for us to bring beef from Alberta, and like this is making everything much more expensive.
So supply management, you think, is a problem from a cost standpoint, and interprovincial trade barriers is a cost negative.
As well, yes, and as well as the real estate. Like if a location is a good location, every restaurant wants it, and the landlord knows that. Our shopping center rent rate is very, very high, where you become opening in shopping centers only as marketing campaign more than opening a business. So the whole business formula of rent and supply chain is difficult. And one last thing as well. Other countries take measure faster in a lot of points, like the provincial government should have capped delivery fee. And every other jurisdiction did, like Quebec did, DC did, New York did, Florida did. They capped Uber and Just Eat to 12%. You cannot allow a company just because they're losing money. Like it's as if I'm losing money in my shawarma business and I'll start charging for shawarma $300. And I'll say that's the only meat sandwich you're allowed to have. And that the government should come and say, no, that doesn't work. By you trying to make business and by you trying to make profit in our country, you're decimating a business that employs our children and has a lot of impact economically on our country.
So
We did not do that in Ontario.
So let's talk about some of the suggestions that you made. Number one, you want to implement some Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy improvements and continue those incentives for a longer period of time. How long do you want those subsidies to continue?
Well, I don't think we should be tied to a deadline of time because, it's funny when you sit on those calls with the ministers and you say how long, we're all scrambling because if the minister doesn't know how long, and the minister themselves cannot promise us how long before they bring our 100% sales back, why are you asking us how long? And that's not to you, Brian, I'm saying in general.
Yeah.
But I think it should be tied to percentage sale, and it should be attached to a sliding scale, attached to basically a percentage of sale coming back to make sure that industry remain and those staff remain in business. And same thing for the rent. But I think it was a mess with the rent, asking the landlord to actually accept to apply for them to discount their rent. It's a funny formula a little bit, right? And I truly believe we were advocating for the little guy, and the people that marketed a little bit themselves for the little guy they were being advocated against our advocacy by the bigger guys. So the landlord were advocating the government not to allow that rent subsidy and the rent eviction ban, and we were advocating for protection of the small businesses from landlord that basically saying, well, if you don't, I'll evict you. Well, if I rented it from you for 10 years and I've been a good tenant, can you partner with me for 4 months until we figure out what is this COVID-19 and what's going to happen in between our business?
So some people might not be familiar with this program. Let's explain it. So my understanding is that the landlord has to forgive 25% of the rent. The tenant has to pay 25% of the rent. And if those two things happen and the tenant is current with their otherwise rental payments, then the government will lend you 50% of the rent, potentially on a forgivable loan basis. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct. And a lot of the landlords said, we're not going to participate, to the extreme that the government said that not even 20% of the money was used that they dedicated to that program. And the landlord did not only say that. Basically, they said to the government, is that it? Okay, great. All tenant, that's an eviction notice if you don't pay me my full rent in the beginning. Then the government added an eviction ban after a while, after we all got a semi-heart attack, right? Because just to let you know and to let all your listeners understand, I have stores downtown Toronto in the past that were closed, but we're asked to pay 25% of the rent. And those stores are at least $20,000 each. So that's basically you're paying 25%, even if the landlord accepts the government subsidy. I'm still paying 25% times 12 stores, let's say, of $20,000. And from a cash flow of other businesses that I'm a sit-down dining restaurant. So it's just catastrophic, those moments. And it's very important for the government to actually open up the deadline. Like, no dates. Don't tell me, like, now we have only an eviction ban till end of July, for example. So August 1 is what, 3 days ago? I don't know if I have to pay rent full, even today, right? And if I'm going to pay full, $1.5 million is going to come out of the bank account. So that's just giving an example.
We're chatting tonight with Mohamad Fakih, the CEO and president and founder and owner of, actually you're not the founder, but you're the owner of Paramount Fine Foods Restaurant. We're going to take a break and come back with Mohamad Fakih, who does sell the best chicken shawarma, Middle Eastern food you can ever imagine. In just a minute, stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour, Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with Mohamad Fakih, the president, CEO, and owner of Paramount Fine Foods, a Middle Eastern restaurant that started in Mississauga. He bought it. He expanded across the GTA, he expanded across Canada, and now he's got restaurants around the globe. Mohamad, how many restaurants do you now have across the globe?
We're 75 until the last day of before COVID started. I'll tell you after COVID how many were left and how many we're planning to open.
Okay, well, 75 restaurants before COVID-19. For a Mississauga-based, Canadian-based restaurant, it's pretty spectacular, and I think you've done an incredible job. And what's been your secret of success, appealing to Middle Eastern food, halal food is what you provide. How have you been able to be so successful and appeal to people other than just people that might want halal food?
Well, I think it's not only the halal food. Is it again? I always say if you taste someone's food or you wanna understand their culture, you taste their food. And when you taste someone's food, you understand their culture. So I think I use the best way that I always learned in my life is when you're good to your community, when you're good to your people, people will want to support you. And I think that's one of the reasons why people always supported Paramount and wanted to venture outside their comfort zone and eat more Middle Eastern food because they wanted to support a company that's appreciative and support the community where we do business.
No,
And I truly believe that.
you've done a great job in that regard. Okay, so we've
Thank you.
talked in our first segment about some of the assistance that you think you need to get from government, and I completely agree with that. Let's talk about what you need to do yourself. Have you been doing takeout? Have you been opening up patios? What do you think the future is going to be? Are we going to have plexiglass partitions between all of our tables? What do you think is the future of the restaurant industry?
Well, I think it's going to be, like you said, a lot of the restaurants are going to disappear. And there's going to be a little bit of a shakedown on who's going to stay in business. And most importantly, is you're going to see a lot of digitalization like we did. We started this concept called Box, where you order, pay online, and you pick up from a cubby. Yet there is real chefs behind it. There is a concierge in the front to provide smile and hospitality so you don't miss why you love restaurants. But at the same time, if you want to, and we know there is a split now, some people are freaking out, don't want to leave home. Other are partying and helping us going back to a second stage, and I hope they don't, to a second lockdown. So there is like a lot of different opinion of how people are reacting. So for the people who are not comfortable to actually have their food handled, they can pick it up from a cubby. As a entrepreneurs, what we do best is evolving and evolving fast. But hopefully the government will give us the rent subsidy, like the staff subsidy, sliding scale, but tell us it's going to go for 6 months so we can make decision on longer term. Any decision you make in business, as you know, Brian, takes 2 3 months before you see a result at least, right? So we need that time. We can't live months to months with those subsidies. We need longer term. And for example, at Paramount, what we did after we launched Box, now we're creating combo location. For Paramount location, you're paying the same $10,000 rent, and you used to have income only for Paramount. We brought Box and we put a combo store in it, pop up, and now people are ordering both items, both menus from the same rent, same staffing, same expense. So we're adding revenue from the top line. So innovative ideas like this, opening patios, definitely. Less parking a lot because there's not a lot of business anyway, and adding table into the driveway where you are. The city accommodated that. They've done a great job at that. But most importantly, you need lasting solutions. The business will be different. We don't need all the square footage we need at Paramount. I need 5,000 square feet location that the lease is ending. We're not renewing. We're moving it somewhere smaller, or we're partitioning it with another brand of ours. We have a couple of brands, or other brands that's not ours, that they're partners in our industry that say, do you need a location? Come, let's share it. So innovative idea, put your ego aside. Don't worry about how you look. You need to follow the first order of business, is staying in business. And that's very important. So staying in business already by the end of the year, it's very, very important for anyone. And that's how success look like. Success will look like if you are out of that 15% of the restaurant business industry or restaurants that are going to remain in business. If you're one of those companies, that's success for you this year. Forget about your financial budget. Evolve, be flexible, partner with your franchisee. Don't forget them, because without them, a lot of companies fall apart. Nando closing all their location, and that's very important for us not to lose this.
You, I don't believe sell alcohol, but the bar industry's got to be even more impacted than the restaurant industry. You at least can set up tables that are somewhat physically distant, but the bar industry's got to be devastated, because the whole idea about a bar is going and mingling with people, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And even the hotel industry is the banquet hall industry. Who's going to get do a wedding now, and who's going to show up anyway? So definitely the bar industry as well. But again, I truly believe, Brian, and I know it's weird for someone who's complaining for the last 40 minutes about wanting the business back, can't wait for the business to come back. I still believe a slower reopening, even slower reopening than the one we're doing, right? We know that Ontario, especially Peel and Toronto, has been the slowest to reopen. I am actually suggesting to keep the bars closed and to do some restriction on the beaches, because we were justified not to learn the first time, but we can't be justified not to learn the second time. And we're seeing what's happening around the world with bars and beaches, unregulated, and they're going back to a second wave. And that will be completely devastating to the business and to our economy. So we cannot leave our health to run after our money. We're going to end up with no health and no money.
No
So
health.
we need to actually, yeah.
So, what do you think governments should do? You've talked about the wage subsidy. You've talked about the rental subsidy. Are we going to have to support this until we have a vaccine? Are we going to have to throw money into the restaurant business, the bar business, the hospitality business for the next year until a vaccine is developed? Or can government allow some of these companies to go bankrupt?
Well, I mean, if they do or they don't, they can automatically allow them by pulling out the subsidy, because nobody's going to stand. The bottom line here, I think, it's something that is not making sense, because if you listen to Mayor John Tory a couple of weeks ago, he was telling people not to go into the restaurant and to the bars if they're not going to be controlling themselves. And so it's all about consumer confidence. And if consumer confidence, or we do not really behave properly when we go out, we're going to need more subsidy down the road. So again, we need to pick what we want here. We're telling people you need to go out, support local, but don't, because you're not going to be safe. And we're telling restaurants we can't support you if you continue doing that. But guess what? Gear up to open, hire more people for sanitizing, to control the lineup, but we're going to tell them on the media not to go to restaurants. So it's a little bit confusing for me. So I think we should have shut down an extra month, right? Slow down our opening a little bit better, have the subsidy shorter, measure 10 times and cut once, right? But what we're doing now is contradictory a little bit of what we're asking people to do, what we're telling restaurants to spend on and invest on, and telling people to really go less to restaurants. So it's a bit confusing. I think we need to restore consumer confidence when we are sure, and regulate it properly when we are sure that they can go back and enjoy the bar and the restaurant scene. Otherwise, shut down those bars, add the subsidy 2 more months, and be sure when you open that you're opening slow enough. Otherwise, yes, you will have to. I think the sliding scale will resolve it. It will push some people to bankrupt. The stronger one will remain, but I'm hoping the stronger one should not be defined by bigger company. Even stronger one, like local restaurant on one owner business, are beautiful, are amazing. I go to them too, right? So we want to make sure that there is a mix of people and different type of businesses that remain open.
So some of the other things that your industry association has asked for is an elimination of increases in excise taxes on beer, wine, and spirits, that you want to implement a commercial eviction moratorium, so that people cannot be evicted. You want to expand liquor licensing such that and make permanent COVID-related licensing such that restaurants can offer alcohol sales for takeout. You want a reduction in property taxes, patio fees, utility fees, and other fees, and you want to ease regulatory burdens. I presume some of the supply conditions that you've mentioned before. That's a fairly sizable laundry list of things that you want governments to do to help the industry. You think it's called for, obviously?
Well, it is called for. I mean, again, the bars, the alcohol part, delivery to take home, that's fine if there is a control who's consuming and how they're going to identify who's consuming it, really. But everything else is very important. Eviction notice, eviction ban is very important. Some landlords are having offers from other tenants, and they're pushing their existing tenant away. And for everyone who do not know, we take a restaurant full walls. We spend 300,000, 400,000 in it. All what we own is the lease. And if the landlord decide to evict the tenant, they lost their life. They might be pushed to a personal bankruptcy that could get to their houses. So an eviction ban is a must, 100%. Landlord should be pushed to the table. And landlord, a lot of them has acted unreasonable, has caused a lot of trauma for people, and people felt that they might go bankrupted and lose their homes. And no one in Canada should feel like this, at least with that amount of money that we're piling up on top of our heads, all of us. I think we should control the relations between people.
Well, I wanted to have you on because even though I've asked you a bunch of hopefully tough questions, I agree with you. And let me use this as an analogy if I could. If your business was taken away from you because the government needed that piece of property to build a road, they would have to they'd have to pay you fair value for your business to take it away. Well, obviously they're not building a road, but what they've done is, for no fault of your own, they've declared a public health emergency and closed your business down. So if some governmental authority hasn't done whatever they needed to do to ensure that they had adequate public health and adequate hospitals and adequate ICU space, et cetera, is such that they have to close businesses down, that's really should be government's failure and their obligation to compensate you for the lost profits.
Absolutely, and it's not at least, even if I don't want to look how much they succeeded or failed, the bottom line goes, it wasn't any fault from entrepreneur that built 20 years or 10 years of their life and left their children to build a business. And all of a sudden, out of no fault on their own, like our Union Station location, the franchisee there could bankrupt if we're not holding him, or the one in Brookfield, or right. And these people has taken loans, and their children works there, and those areas are closed by provincial decisions, so they can't even open. But the landlord is calling them at home, say, "Are you stressed?" "Yes." "Well, let me make you more stressed. I need rent for something that I closed you down for."
Well, and I think that one of the keys to a good society is having those third places, not the home and not the workplace, but those places that you can go out and enjoy a meal or a drink with loved ones or friends or whoever. And lots of psychologists, sociologists have analyzed this over time and have shown that other place is so critically important to us. And that other place in Canada has typically been the restaurant on the main street. And if all of a sudden all those restaurants on all of our main streets are gone, it'll end up being a far less attractive community that we end up living in. So I hope that government hears what you have to say and heeds your argument. And I think the biggest issue I've got is the rent subsidy that I think has been very difficult to administer. I agree with you in regards to the moratorium on evictions, but I also think that the forgiveness of rent should be 100%, and that's what the government should be supplying. Anyway, Mohamad Fakih, Paramount Fine Foods. If people want to order takeout, how do they get that? Is there a general Paramount Fine Foods website they can go to?
Yeah, we have a website, and we just launched our app. That's all the COVID-19 things that we put in motion. We have an app now. You can order it through the app. But again, the government could easily cap those delivery fee and make, like Paramount, what we did, we lowered our price. We called something called Dare to Care menu, because we realized Canadians need their dollar to travel much further for themselves. So we lowered our prices during COVID-19. And I think government should actually cap those delivery fees, so all the consumers, all your listeners could get cheaper food, and the restaurant industry become even more profitable. And it'll be less pressure on the government if they cap those delivery company. Quite honestly, I have no issue if they actually shut down, like Uber. They're an American company, and I have nothing against the American people, definitely. But if they can do business here without hurting our economy, I don't have a problem. They don't want to do business in Canada, because without them, our consumer will come and pick up. We'll find a way to deliver to them. But with them, keep giving loyalty program to the customer, charging us 30%, forcing us to increase our prices when we don't make money, is not good for anyone. Go to ParamountFineFood.com online or to by paramount.com, and we'll deliver the food right to your house. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thanks,
really
Mohamad. I look forward to sharing a chicken shawarma with you soon. Well,
Thank
that's
you
the
very
Brian
much.
Crombie Radio Hour for tonight. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to Mohamad Fakih for sharing his thoughts on the restaurant industry and what government needs to do to sustain that business that's so important to us. And 800,000 people that have lost their jobs because of COVID-19 in that industry. It's a shocking number. Thank you, Mohamad.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian Crombie, and we're going to be talking on The Brian Crombie Show. We're going to be talking about politics, arts, business, and social issues on The Brian Crombie Show on Canada One TV.